Welcome to The Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back to my podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. 2022 is here. We're only a couple days in. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Have you turned over a new leaf? Are you trying to get in the gym? Give me the backstory. Tell me what it is that you're doing. What is 2022 looking like for you? I'm telling you, I'm really I don't know, I feel hype. I feel really, I guess I had to rest too because you guys know I traveled and it was a lot traveling, but I made it. I made it amongst all of the canceled flights and canceled trains and alternatives trying to find to travel. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. But even crazier, we had some wild storms here last night, and I was like, what is going on? It was kind of like a wintry mix of like a snow / sleet / whatever, and it was like 33 degrees, but it felt like it was in the 20s. And that was crazy because when I got back from New York, it was broiling hot here. It was like in the 70s. When I say broiling hot, I mean we were wearing, everybody pretty much on the train was wearing warm clothes, and I had my wrap on, my neck all wrapped up. And I got off that train and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was literally warm outside. Wow. So to go from that to 32, 33 degrees and a snowy mix, a wintry mix of stuff that you only see in the Northeast, in New York and stuff like that, was pretty crazy. And we lost power for several hours last night. It was wild. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I'm trying to move stuff out of the way around the floor and everything with the flashlight thing on my phone so I don't get up in the middle of the night or something and trip over something. So I was like, all right, let me move stuff, against the walls or whatever. So I'm not because I was still unpacking. I still haven't unpacked since I got home. So I wanted to move my suitcase and stuff that I had all over the floor, just kind of out of the way. So I don't know when the power came back on. I think we lost power for a good maybe 7 or 8 hours during that storm. And so this is what's been going on. So what can I tell you? Global warming, I guess you could blame it on. I don't even know anymore. But it was pretty crazy. And anybody who knows, that's kind of crazy for the South. For Georgia, that's very unusual weather. So but it has been crazy with some storms. And even while I was still in New York, there was huge rainstorms coming through and tornadoes touching down and all of that. And now today, it's beautiful outside. And, as I talk about that, it actually just reminds me, I was going to talk about something else for this episode, but this just actually jumped up in my spirit. So I'm going to speak on it. We go through storms, we go through things that we don't always expect, very unexpected, just like the storms that have been coming through the South and all the snow that's been happening on the West Coast. Those are very unexpected things that people, get thrown at them. And it's like life. Life throws you unexpected things that you don't anticipate. And you have to find a way around it. You have to find a way. Sometimes you have to go through it, and you guys know I don't even like to say go through it. I like to say grow through it, because a lot of things you do have to grow through. So even though what I was going to talk about today is completely out the window, I'll probably do that on another day. I think that this is a good metaphor for this, that storms do come in your life. And sometimes they're not there to disrupt. You know, we always think that when there's a storm, when there's a hiccup, when there's some sort of monkey wrench thrown in there, that they're there to disrupt. And sometimes storms are not there to disrupt. They're there to actually clear your path. But we have to be accepting of the change. And that is one thing that human beings don't do well with a lot of times, is change. And the top of the year, the top of a new year, is a great time to click over and change, because it's the beginning of a new year, and I feel like it's easier for some people to kind of formulate that in their minds. And so that's why the new year is always kind of like the time to flip over and do something different. You can't get the same results. You can't get different results if you keep doing the same thing. You have to do different things to see different results. And sometimes you have to experiment with new things to get different results. If you keep doing something the same way all the time and it's not working, that's a telltale sign. It's time to try something different. It may be a different conversation. Maybe it's a sit down with your significant other to map out your household and how you're going to move forward raising your children. Maybe it's the sit down with your boss to see where you are in your career and what your boss sees for you. A lot of times, bosses, people don't often sit down with their boss and ask their boss, what can I do for you? A lot of times we're going to our bosses, and I'm talking to my 9-to-5ers because I was in this world, and I get it. We are always asking our boss for everything. Time off. Can we telework? Can we do this? Can we do that? When is the last time you ever walked into your boss's office and said, do you need anything? Is there something that I can take off of your plate? Let me tell you something. In all my years of having managed anyone at a job, or even managing things for an event or whatever, or any situation where I have been the quote unquote boss, or, overseeing a particular project, I will tell you right now, anyone, and there have been a handful of people, anyone that has come to me and asked me if I needed help, listen, that person has stayed on my A-list since the beginning of time. I will always remember them for future projects. Trust me, bosses, even though they may have an attitude sometimes, and some bosses are just not good, some bosses are just bad, but I'm talking about the bosses that really do care, that come around and ask questions, that solicit feedback from their crew, all that sort of stuff. Just sometimes drop in their office and say, hey, are there any other projects that need to be handled? Are there any other, paperworks that need to be done? Just let me know. I'm getting work done on my stuff. I'm getting my quota filled, but I do have a little downtime here. Is there anything that I can do for you? And trust and believe, 9 times out of 10, unless it's just something that you totally cannot handle, there's always paperwork to be done. There's always something to be filed. There's always, what do they call it? Input of information or whatever. There's always something to be done. So don't just sit there and just be like, well, I got free time, I'm not going to do anything. Make yourself useful. In this new year, this new season, make yourself useful. Right? And at the same time, when I talked about storms, when storms come through your path, don't just look at it like, oh, what is this storm happening? Oh my goodness, I'm going through something else again. I know that is the normal response. That's the human response. But when that storm dies down, look at the path that's in front of you and say, okay, why did this storm come through? It cleared my path for what? What's the next thing, right? It didn't just come to ravage. It came to clear a path for something. And I know that's kind of hard for some people to digest, because what happens after a storm? You see houses flipped over, you see tornadoes come through, everything looks like stacks of wood everywhere, cars mangled, whatever. But somewhere in that, there's going to be a lesson learned. Even in that, there's going to be a lesson learned. The storm teams that go out there and calculate these things, so that we can have better information to be notified sooner. So that it's not just at the last minute and all of a sudden a tornado comes and hits us out of nowhere. Those storm teams, every time a storm happens, they learn more how to, let the public know ahead of time. Those sirens will go off earlier so that we're not caught off guard. There's always a little lesson in every single thing. And I know it's hard to see sometimes when you're in the midst of the storm, but there's always a lesson somewhere. So when I'm speaking of storms as far as life situations, there's always a lesson. Try to look for the lesson as best as you can and see, man, maybe this was put in place to clear my path. Maybe this was put in place. It hurts right now, but maybe it was put in my path for me to practice hurdling over. Because maybe there's a little mini storm down the road coming that you're going to beat like it's nothing because you just went through this huge thing. Maybe it's the setup for you to help somebody else through their storm. Maybe you're going to be the person to help them. You never know. Storms don't always come to destroy. Sometimes they come to clear a path. That's all I got. It wasn't what I was going to talk about today, but because of all these storms going on across the nation, it kind of gave me a little bit of a metaphorical insight. So you know what it is. If you want to talk to me on social media, Instagram is my most active social media, and I'm going to do everything that I can. I'm going to challenge myself to post most days of the week, if not every day. But I'm definitely going to, make this podcast a daily podcast. Kind of losing my voice, I guess, from all the travel and from cold to hot and hot to cold and all that. It's kind of making my voice a little crazy. But again, catch me on Instagram at Onyx Queen Media, and that's on all socials as well, but Instagram is the number one. And if you want to email me, remember, you guys, we're using the new email address, hello@onyxqueenmedia.com. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye. Online savings simplified. Don't search for coupon codes ever again. With one click, Honey's smart shopping assistant will automatically apply discounts to your cart in seconds. Save on all your favorite things. Easily pay less for products you're already buying online. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Join Honey for free. It takes 2 clicks to add Honey to your Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or Opera browser. Find savings in seconds. While you shop, Honey will find working promo codes across the entire internet, and you save instantly. With one click, Honey will apply the best deals to your cart. It's that easy. So what are you waiting for? Get Honey. Download it today. Visit our link, www.tinyurl.com/ONYXHONEY. That's www.tinyurl.com/Onyx Honey. Start saving right now.